Imagine you're a submarine captain, deep beneath the waves. The world above a distant memory. You're on a critical mission, the fate of your nation resting on your shoulders. You've been submerged for days, maybe weeks, listening to the hum of the engines, the creak of the hull, and the ping of sonar in the distance. The air is stale. The tension is thick enough to cut with a knife. Then the order comes. Surface. You rise, breaking through the dark water, and as your periscope clears the waves, your heart stops. It's not the open ocean that greets you. It's the entire United States Navy. This isn't a scene from a movie. This was the harrowing reality for Commander Makitsura Hashimoto, captain of the Japanese submarine I-58, in the final, desperate days of World War II. His story is one of the most incredible, and often overlooked, tales from the Pacific War. It's a story of duty, survival, and a confrontation that symbolizes the overwhelming power that ended the largest conflict in human history. But to understand how Hashimoto ended up in this impossible situation, we need to rewind. The war in the Pacific was a brutal, island-hopping campaign fought across millions of square miles of ocean, and at the heart of this conflict was the submarine. For both the Americans and the Japanese, submarines were the silent hunters, the unseen threat that could cripple supply lines, sink battleships, and change the course of the war overnight. The Japanese, in particular, had a formidable submarine fleet. They built some of the most advanced and largest submarines of the era, like the I-40 class, which were essentially underwater aircraft carriers designed to launch surprise attacks on the American mainland. Their torpedoes, the Type 95, nicknamed the Long Lance, were legendary for their speed, range, and devastating power. Japanese submarine doctrine was aggressive, focused on ambushing and destroying enemy warships. They were a force to be reckoned with. One of the most notable successes for the Japanese submarine force came early in the war. Just weeks after Pearl Harbor, Japanese subs prowled the American west coast, creating panic and sinking merchant ships. They proved that no coastline was safe, bringing the war right to America's doorstep. On the other side, the U.S. Navy's submarine force, known as the Silent Service, had a rough start. Their torpedoes were notoriously unreliable, often failing to detonate even on a direct hit. But they learned, adapted, and improved. U.S. submarines began a relentless campaign against Japanese merchant shipping, slowly but surely strangling Japan's war economy. They choked off the flow of oil, rubber, and food to the home islands, effectively putting a blockade on the entire nation from below the waves. This war of attrition was just as crucial as the major naval battles we all know. This brings us back to Commander Hashimoto and the I-58. In the summer of 1945, the war was nearing its climax. Japan was on the brink of collapse, but its military leadership refused to surrender. Hashimoto was a seasoned and respected officer. His mission was to hunt for American ships in the heavily patrolled waters between Guam and the Philippines. On the night of July 30th, 1945, his moment came. Through his periscope, he spotted a target silhouetted against the moonlight. It was a large warship, zigzagging but not moving particularly fast. Hashimoto maneuvered his submarine into the perfect attack position. He fired a spread of 6 torpedoes. At least 2 of them hit home, causing catastrophic explosions. The ship, the USS Indianapolis, a heavy cruiser, sank in just 12 minutes. What Hashimoto did not know was the Indianapolis had just completed a top-secret mission, delivering key components for the atomic bomb to the island of Tina. Due to a series of communication blunders, the ship wasn't reported overdue, and no rescue was immediately sent. For the nearly 900 men who survived the sinking, a new nightmare was just beginning in the shark-infested waters. It remains one of the greatest tragedies in U.S. naval history. For Hashimoto, sinking the Indianapolis was the pinnacle of his career, a major victory in a losing war. He recorded the kill in his logbook and continued his patrol, unaware of the ship's significance or the horrific fate of its crew. But the tide of war had turned completely. The atomic bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki just days later. On August 15th, Emperor Hirohito announced Japan's surrender. The war was over. For the men at sea, the news came as a shock. Hashimoto received the official order to cease hostilities and head to a designated port. He was instructed to fly a black flag of surrender, As the I-58 made its way toward Japan, its mission of war was replaced by a mission of capitulation. And this is where we come to that incredible moment. As Hashimoto followed his orders and brought the I-58 to the surface in the Kii Channel, off the coast of Japan, he was met with a staggering sight. It wasn't just a few ships. It was an armada, as far as the eye could see. The horizon was filled with the steel-gray hulls of American warships, destroyers, cruisers, battleships, and aircraft carriers. The full might of the victorious U.S. Navy was assembled, waiting to accept the surrender of the remaining Japanese naval forces. Can you imagine that feeling, after years of fighting in the dark, hunting in secret, to surface and be confronted by the overwhelming, undeniable reality of defeat? To see the sheer scale of the force you were fighting against, all laid out before you. For Hashimoto and his crew, it must have been a profoundly humbling and surreal experience. The war wasn't just over. It was monumentally lost. The I-58, the proud hunter, was now just a tiny vessel surrendering to a sea of conquerors. Hashimoto's story didn't end there. After the war, he was called to Washington, D.C. to testify at the court-martial of Captain Charles McVay, the commander of the USS Indianapolis. McVay was being tried for hazarding his ship by failing to zigzag. In a remarkable twist of fate, Hashimoto testified in defense of his former enemy. He stated that the visibility was good that night, and that zigzagging would not have saved the Indianapolis from his torpedoes. He had him dead to rights. Despite his testimony, Captain McVay was convicted, a controversial verdict that was only posthumously overturned decades later. The story of Commander Hashimoto and the I-58 is a powerful microcosm of the entire Pacific War. It encompasses the stealth and lethality of submarine warfare, the dramatic turns of fate, the tragedy of loss, and the ultimate, crushing weight of industrial and military power. It shows us that even in a global conflict involving millions, history often pivots on the actions of individuals in specific high-stakes moments. The image of that lone submarine surfacing to face an entire fleet is a poignant and unforgettable symbol of the end of an era. It is a quiet moment that speaks volumes about the finality of surrender and the dawn of a new, uncertain peace. Thank you for watching. The history of World War II is filled with incredible stories like this one, reminders of the courage, sacrifice, and complexity of the human experience during wartime. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history. Let us know in the comments what other hidden stories of the war you'd like to see covered. See you next time.